Welcome back. This generation of students is no doubt more aware of the risks directed at schools and at students than probably any generation before. So how do we give them the peace of mind of knowing that help will arrive immediately if something were to happen? Two local high schoolers brought their idea to their local legislator. We're joined by Democratic State Senator Ceci Maher and Staples High School student Elijah Falkenstein. Thank you both for being here. Elijah, I want to start with you. You and another student came up with this idea. Tell us what the idea is and how you came up with it.
So my co-president and I of the Make Our School Safe Club at Staples High School, Xander Bauer, and I found legislation called Alyssa's Law out of Florida, which was written by Lori and Alon Alhadef, parents of Alyssa, who was unfortunately taken from us at the tragedy at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland in 2018. And the law essentially states that every school, every classroom in every school in the state is required to have silent panic buttons in the case of an emergency. And that was inspiring to us. And we introduced it to Senator Ceci Maher, who's been incredible and has listened to us and, helped us through this and has been incredible.
All right. Well, it's certainly a great idea. So, Senator Maher, you get this idea. Some students come to you and say, hey, silent panic buttons. Tell us how it went from that to being something that's being considered in the General Assembly.
Well, I think the most important thing is that both Elijah and Xander had really solid ideas and they had a solution, and they were able to articulate that and make sure that we had a meeting, that we talked about it, and that I was able to bring it forward. As you all know, Sandy Hook Promise happened in Connecticut, and due to that tragedy, there was already in place a bill. Originally, we looked at Alyssa's Law, but in fact, we had a bill in place that could accommodate this silent alarm. So we worked with the DESP, which is, emergency protection, to have them take a look at it. And all we needed to do was acknowledge that this new type of technology now existed within a current bill. And we were able to put that in there. And that means that it gives schools access to funds for this particular type of emergency response. And I'm very grateful to Elijah and Xander for bringing this up.
Yeah, such a great idea. And just sort of to unpolitics it, I guess. So this is obviously a great idea. Anyone who said it, that sounds great. But you had to get this passed so that the schools could access the grant money. There was a list of things they could do with the grant. You had to make this be part of that list, right? And there is money out there, so schools can do it.
Yeah, that's exactly correct. I mean, there are all sorts of other things that were put in place after Sandy Hook, but this was not part of it because, in 10 years, 13 years, there has been a lot of changes. So that's why their advocacy was great. And I was glad to be able to do this. And within our committee, it came out unanimously. And then in the Senate this week, last week, the bill was also passed unanimously.
Yeah.
So I feel really strongly about this bill. And I was the interim executive director at Sandy Hook Promise several years ago, and there is nothing that is more important to me than keeping children safe in school. And that is a part of what Xander and Elijah said, was that they have never felt safe in school. And
all right, it looks like we're having a little trouble with Senator Maher's feed, so I'm going to turn to you, Elijah, and hopefully we're going to get her back. But tell me, how does this actually work? Tell me the logistics. So once these things get into classrooms, just describe for people, what will they look like? What will they do?
So I believe that there'll be key cards or they act as a button that every teacher can have. And in terms of logistics, I don't know how much they cost because it varies depending on each. There are many different companies that can produce these. So,
and I was reading about it, Elijah, and it said that there can also be, I saw in Georgia, they were talking about that it can be for two different kinds of emergencies. It could be something like, God forbid, an active shooter, but also just if somebody has a medical emergency inside the school and you need to get some help because someone's having a heart attack or trouble breathing, right?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up Georgia because in Georgia recently, there was a tragedy, a school shooting where multiple lives were taken. However, many lives were proven to be saved thanks to the implementation of an adaptation of Alyssa's Law a week prior. having silent panic buttons saved lives. And not only that, a student fainted during the Pledge of Allegiance and in Florida and had a serious medical issue. And the teacher had access to the silent panic button. They could press it, and the authorities came and were able to save the person's life.
Yeah, just having that kind of stuff. And I think it is important to note that it's not just because of the most terrible case. It could be all sorts of things where somebody needs help and they could access it. Just one more question for you, and we're hoping we get Senator Maher's connection back. But if I want to finish up with you, Elijah, how do you think this will make people feel in schools if they have it? Just from a student perspective, do you think it'll be some peace of mind?
I think it'll definitely help. I mean, there's a lot of open areas to how people feel right now and how they could feel in the future, and that definitely closes the gap. I think having this legislation passed would be so amazing, and in terms of me, it would make me feel so much safer, and I have many friends who say the same, and that's all we can really ask for, is for our schools to physically be safer, but also for the students to feel safer.
Well, I know there's a lot of people at the Capitol who spend a lot of time working on bills, and here you and Xander came up with one, and at least so far it's been passing with flying colors. So you must be awfully proud, and I know your school must be awfully proud of you as well. You heard all the nice things Senator Maher had to say about you. We're going to continue to follow this, of course, and it's something that the two of you came up with down there at Staples High, and hopefully it'll be across the state if it does get passed. Elijah Falkenstein, thank you so much for being with us. Senator Ceci Maher was with us as well. Unfortunately, we couldn't get her connection back up, but Elijah, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.